don't know what's going on anymore. I got an achievement and I didn't even finish the chapter. God damn, what the hell's going on? Satoshi and I had... what? All my well-planned actions throughout the day had turned out to be nothing more than reenactment of what Satoshi had done. Satoshi. Had he really been in the same situation as I was right now? The friends he had gotten along with had changed suddenly. And for no reason, at least none that I noticed, planned to kill him? Then, fearing for his life as I am, he'd gotten a bat to protect himself and carried it around every day to practice his swing? And on them one day, he transferred. My blood went cold, causing a prickling sensation to course through my veins. Starting near my heart, it radiated outwards from the top of my head to the soles of my feet, chilling every part of me without recourse. What did she mean by transfer? What does she mean by transfer? Was Satoshi still wherever he transferred to? Was he the only one who would be able to understand me? Would he be able to tell me why it all ended up like this? More importantly, where did he transfer to? What did she mean by transfer? What did she mean by transfer? Before I knew it, I was at my front door. The frigid knob was hard to turn. Sorry, I'm 12 years old and that sentence is hilarious. Was nobody home? It wasn't that odd of an occurrence. I reached into my pocket and pulled out a single key attached to my fur sealed chain. I stepped in the entryway. Just as I was about to take off my shoes, a chill ran down my spine. That's not a chill, that's someone running their needles down a fucking chalkboard again. Someone had entered right behind me. Like a classmate messing around, standing right up against my back. You're kidding, right? It had to be my imagination. Logically speaking, it was impossible for someone to be able to hide their presence within my personal space all the way through the door. But there was undoubtedly someone behind me. Hey now, Keiichi. How did you know they were there even though they were behind you? Because I could hear the sound of flowing hair. There's no other reason I'd heard that sound. That was their presence. Flowing hair makes me think that it's Mion. Or my mother. I don't know what my mother looks like, so it could be her. I don't know. Because I could hear the sound of them blinking. Keiichi Maibara, there's no way you could hear that! My most base instincts were warning me of the presence. Common sense was telling me that it was just my imagination. It was just my imagination. There was probably no one behind me. I began to erase the mental image of the eerie figure standing behind me. But at the same time, I asked myself, if there was nobody, then what was I feeling? An uncomfortable sensation crawled up my spine. Actually, wouldn't it be better if somebody was there? If there was nobody when you turned around, would you be able to accept that? I'd be able to answer all those questions just by looking behind me. But I didn't have enough courage to even do that simple task. Alright, I could try speaking to them. The person behind me might answer me. It was a random thought. I didn't care about how well it went, just as long as I didn't have to turn around. If I had calmed down and thought about it, I would have known that wouldn't have solved anything. Who is it? I spoke in such a hoarse, broken voice that I couldn't believe it was my own. I could almost feel them contemplating their response. I felt it. There was no way I should be able to do that. Calm down, Keiichi. It's all in your head. That time I was certain I heard it. As if hesitantly trying to answer my inquiry, I was certain I could hear the sound of someone inhaling. I heard it. I heard it. I heard it clearly. It was a girl. A young girl. I didn't know who, but a tiny speck of courage in me, however reckless it was, inspired a primal yet fitting solution to the current predicament. A scream. All the force in my body released from my lungs and through my throat, ceasing all thought processes in my head. Suppressing all my thoughts and emotions, I began to collapse like a house of cards, somehow managing to twist my body and look back as I did so. It was definitely there. Right there. Somebody was there. Until the moment I turned around, until I brought the area behind me into my field of vision, they were definitely there. Falling face up, my eyes traced the remnants of the presence that's suspended in the empty space. It couldn't be. They were invisible. They looked like they weren't there, but they were actually still standing there? As I screamed, all the emotions I was holding back burst free in a violent wave. However, I was decidedly calm as my emotional dam collapsed. I really should actually move that cable so it's not pulling on my microphone wire. The turbulent wave of pent-up emotions was skillfully diverted into a torrent of aggression. That emotion was definitely required to extricate? That emotion was definitely required to extricate myself from the bizarre situation happening right in front of me. In my state of heightened ludicrousy, I entrusted my body to the fury. The metal bat held firm in my right hand as if drawn there by a magnet. A mid-level sweep would be the hardest to dodge. I remembered reading something like that from a book about swordsmanship or something. I brandished my will to fight. The afterimage of that amalgamation of metal flashed as it swung from left to right, beating against the entryway. The bat slammed into the right wall, the tip rebounding violently. Very calmly, I transferred the force of the rebound into a sweep to the left. The door of the shoe cupboard was split into pieces. Those two swings whiffed through empty space, but they seemed to have a great psychological impact on the enemy. I could feel the panic emanating from that space. The attack wasn't the only thing required. I extracted the bat from the cupboard as it was embedded in and screamed as I spun my entire body around in a large arc. This stopped being a horror thing and just turned into watch Keiichi have a mental breakdown, I feel. My screams shook the air, imbuing my ferocious swing with even more destructive power. Without mercy or restraint, my violent strike, with certainly fatal force behind it, shattered the top of the cupboard. None of my attacks struck the enemy, but my ferocity had certainly seemed to impact them. Breathing heavily, my entire body soaked in sweat, the invisible enemy, there but not there, disappeared. When I was certain that the enemy had retreated, I locked the front door and latched the chain. No way. It had only feigned retreat and was now inside my house? Once again, I channeled my aggression and searched the house for the presence. But it was gone. I had succeeded in fending it off. At that moment, the tension drained from my body and I let out a deep sigh of relief. All the emotions I'd been holding back chaotically merged together and began to flood out. A hodgepodge of fear, accomplishment, and disbelief all mixed together and began to flow through my body. Unable to deal with each individual feeling, I beat them all back with the strongest: exhaustion. Even in this moment, I remained composed. After checking that all the doors throughout the house were locked, I went up to my room on the second floor and closed the curtains. I straightened my back and tilted my head back up a little. After clearing my mind of all idle thoughts, I managed to calm down even more. What was that at the front door? There was definitely something there. Thinking about it, maybe it was just an apparition I dreamt up in my confused state. But I didn't really think that was the case. Calm down, Keiichi Maibara. Compose yourself. No matter how calmly I thought about it, what just happened wasn't a figment of my imagination. It was obviously a supernatural phenomenon, and without a doubt, something was behind me. It wasn't some sort of illusion I saw amidst my confusion and disorientation. Proof? I had just one piece. When I asked who is it, they inhaled as if they were about to answer. That sound had clearly reached my ears. The situation I was in right now was still unclear. Either I'd been possessed by the supernatural phenomenon known as Oyashiro-sama's curse, or this was a ruse by the villagers who believed in it and were imitating it. Either way, their motives were unclear. The roundabout way it had been done was also still a mystery. If it was perpetrated by humans, that would mean admitting that it was Reina and the rest of them doing it, but it would be solvable. Oishi-san and the rest of the police would surely arrest my enemy. But if it were a manifestation of Oyashiro-sama's curse, I wondered what would happen. Oishi-san very clearly declared that curses didn't exist. At that time, those words were pretty dependable, but as things were now, with the rising possibility that the perpetrators were not human, he suddenly seemed quite unreliable. If I told Oishi-san this was the work of Oyashiro-sama's curse, what would happen? I couldn't imagine his reaction, but it would go without a question that the void would expand rapidly between myself and Oishi-san. With me having so few allies to begin with, and not being able to confidently declare whether or not this was a curse, there was no merit to doing that. I better keep the facts of what just happened at the doorway to myself. It would be better if I didn't add what happened here to the memo behind the clock. There was still the ever so slight possibility that I was actually confused, and when I thought I was composed and I was just going berserk in the entryway. How wonderful would that be if that was what really had happened? I'd be able to refute Oyashiro-sama's curse. But if I denied Oyashiro-sama's curse, then that would mean admitting that Reina and the rest were the perpetrators. If I said that Reina and the rest weren't the perpetrators, that would mean that believing in Oyashiro-sama's curse. But by denying both of those, I would be admitting that I myself was losing it. The three options from which I couldn't choose became a trilemma of sorts. They mixed together and formed a whirlpool in my mind, making my head spin. Once again, I straightened myself and leaned my head back slightly to cool myself down. Calm down, Keiichi. Accept what has happened as reality. Stop thinking of anything more than that. But I couldn't help but think of it. How wonderful it would be if it turned out I was just delirious and everything up until now was a figment of my imagination. Oyashiro-sama's curse wouldn't exist and I would still be bestest buddies with Reina and the rest. I'd have to be crazy. That was the first time in my life that I'd ever wished for such a thing. The phone rang noisily downstairs. Generally, there were no calls for me, so I never really answered the phone much. Since my parents weren't here, I had no choice. I squirmed off the bed and went downstairs. Hello, this is the Maibara residence. Keiichi? This is Mom. I intuitively had a bad feeling about this. Just because I thought she was going to go out and ask me to buy some things. So I took the initiative. What? I don't mind having instant noodles for dinner. There's still a lot of them. The other day we went out as a family and bought a whole case of cup noodles. I wanted to get a bunch of different kinds actually, but they refused since the individual packets were expensive. So instead I got the whole case of mega-sized pork bone and ginger flavoured ones I like. Sounds amazing, I'm not gonna lie. But my parents didn't like strong flavours and didn't touch any of them, so there were still cupboards full the cupboards were still full of them. So you see, there isn't really a need to go shopping, right?
Keiichi, I'm not asking you to go shopping. Both Mommy and Daddy have to go to Tokyo right now because of work.
Huh? Right now? This was really abrupt.
No, we're already here. We left this afternoon.
It's quite a distance to Tokyo from Hinamizawa. Gunning it full speed down the highway would take 6 hours. Dad had a license, but he still didn't like the highway that lightly took the train. That was a terrible sentence, but yeah, it would have taken longer.
I'm thinking about understanding since you heard us speaking last night, but it has to do with Daddy's contract. Right now, things aren't going so smoothly.
Now that she mentioned it, I did remember that they talked all that time about how his job prospects weren't looking so good.
Daddy's really sensitive about these things like this, so if we leave things as they are, it'll affect his work.
Part of my father's particular fragile autistic personality, his emotions changed as easily as the fall sky. You could also just say that he couldn't take criticism. But something like that can be done over the phone.
Keiichi, this is your father's job, so can you support him a bit, please? Anyway, it's just faster to talk about it in person. So there won't be any misunderstandings.
As their son, there was nothing more I could say once they started talking about work.
So we'll be back tomorrow night. Keiichi, will you be fine on your own?
It's not like I'll die or anything. Ha ha! Foreshadowing, I hate it.
Keiichi, you shouldn't speak so lightly of dying. If there's something troubling you, you should talk to us. I believe Mommy will be able to help out.
Yesterday I did bring up if I died rather abruptly, so I suppose they were a little worried. But really, I was more depressed by the fact that nothing would be solved by telling them. I didn't plan on dying. At least, not while I still knew nothing. I'd never allow it. I won't die. I won't. I'll survive even if I have to gnaw my leg off.
Yeah. See you then. Tomorrow morning, make sure to wake up. And eat your breakfast. And don't forget to take a bath and brush your teeth.
Hey.
Yeah. See ya. The call ended like that. Sometimes my parents went off to Tokyo for business meetings. But Tokyo was far away. They normally did things by phone. The times they did go were normally planned out in advance, and it never happened this suddenly. I couldn't say that those circumstances didn't feel strange, or rather unnatural. Anyway, I only needed to recognize the reality of the situation. That tonight, I was the only one in the house. That when my parents came back from work, I'd be gone. Missing. Vanished. Looking back at the series of events of the previous 5 years involving Oyashiro-sama's curse, it wouldn't seem that strange at all. Come to think of it, it was getting pretty late. I didn't think it was good that the only light in the whole house was from my room in the second floor. It was the same as broadcasting to the enemy that my parents were gone, and this was their chance. First I ran to the living room, flicked on the lights, and turned on the TV to a reassuring volume. Next was the study. I suddenly turned on the lights and some music. With this from the outside, it will look like my parents were here. Once again, I went through the house, checking to see if there was anything left unlocked. When I saw the veranda and the laundry still hanging out there, I went pale. That would have made it too obvious. I needed to take it down. I snatched down the laundry haphazardly and erased all traces that my mother wasn't there. Should be fine now. The garbage! It hadn't gone all the way to Tokyo by car, but they had gone up to Okinomiya Station. The garbage was empty, wide open and in plain sight. This wasn't good. I panicked and rushed over to the back to close the normally open garbage door. It should be fine by now. I needed to get the paper! Mom always got the paper. Since they left in the afternoon, the evening paper was still out there. My premonition was correct. I pulled out everything from the mailbox and dropped it into the entryway. With this, for sure this time it should be fine. Come to think of it, leaving the cupboard busted like that for my little freakout was kind of bad. I'll just say I tripped and fell and the bat I was holding smashed into it. Even so, just leaving it in its current state wasn't good. I should clean it up a little before Mom got back and scolded me. I remember that there was a broom and dustpan in the closet. As I was going to get them, the phone rang out once again. Sorry, the phone terrified me. Hello, this is the Maibara residence.
Oh, is this Keiichi-kun? Is your mother around?
She isn't here at the moment. You idiot, Keiichi Maibara! Don't reveal that your parents are gone. You can still follow up. Calm down and take care of it. I think she'll be back soon. That wasn't a good response either. Now they might say they'll call again or tell her to call when she comes back.
Then that's fine. It wasn't anything important. Well then, sorry for the bother.
The scenario I feared didn't play out, eliciting a sigh of relief. The call was fortunate in more ways than one. I didn't have to deal with any telephone calls coming in from my parents tonight. I was somehow able to deal with the phone call just now, but I couldn't continue to rely on such poor improv. We'll go with that for short. I needed to make up a good story to explain that my parents were home but couldn't answer the phone at the moment. They were making tempura and couldn't step away right now. And that wasn't good enough. They were sick and went to bed because they weren't feeling well. Was that going to be safe enough? I was thinking about it on the way back to my room when the phone rang once again. It was like they were calling me costly. They knew I was going to lie. I didn't want to pick it up, but I knew I had to. They'd suspect my parents weren't here. I should have just taken the phone off the hook and under the pretense that I didn't realize that it was. But since the phone rang, I had to pick it up. I prepared myself and lifted up the receiver. Hello? I stopped announcing that this was the Maibara residence. I had a reason to be kind to someone who didn't. I had no reason to be kind to someone I didn't know the identity of. But unlike my uncouth voice, the person on the other side sounded goofy and light-hearted. Oh, it's you bastard! Last time you called, Raina stood in front of my door for an hour. Hello, my apologies for calling so late. This is Hoishi from the Okinomiya bookstore. Oishi-san? Not you, Maibara-san. Good evening. Good to hear you're not dead. Wait a moment, please. I grabbed the portable handset and rushed up to my room with it. It was the same no matter where I was, since there was no one else home, but I wanted to be in the spot that felt just a bit safer when speaking on the phone with Oishi-san. Sorry for the wait. How are things? Anything changed since then? Since then? When was then exactly? There was something about the brazen way he talked that rubbed me the wrong way. The last time I spoke with Oishi-san was 2 days ago. The day I stayed home from school, I met Oishi-san on the way back from the hospital and we headed into town for lunch and a talk. And after that, Rain and Mion came to cheer me up. When I spoke with Oishi-san, they always knew about it. It was like that since the first time I met him. Today's phone call may as well be found out by them as well. Hello? Can you hear me, Maibara-san? Huh? Sorry. What did you say? I asked if anything's changed since last time. I wasn't an answer, so I was getting a bit worried. Not really. The words stopped in my throat. There was a ton of stuff that had happened. All of it baffling. What should I talk about? I didn't understand any of it, but I should try asking. If I don't ask now, I may never get another chance. This night when my parents went home, I had no guarantees I would make it through to the night safely after all. Well, Oishi-san, seems that someone is after me. Really? It could all just be just a coincidence, but that day I missed school when I was sick. The two of them came to cheer me up. Which two? Reina and Mion. They started asking about how I had lunch with you. What next? They left me some mochi when it came to visit, but there was a needle inside. Fortunately, I somehow didn't swallow it. I wonder, could that have just been a threat? About the needle. It was just one of those common sewing needles you see all the time. There was a hole to thread string through. Not that, Maibara-san, the needle itself. That's evidence. It could be used as proof that they threatened you. Where is that needle? That's right. That's it! I dropped the receiver and rushed downstairs. When I tossed the mochi, I'd overlooked it in terror, but the needle was a valuable piece of evidence. Let's see. I threw the mochi at the wall and a needle. I threw the mochi and needle at the wall together. If it was right there, then it would be in the living room wall. My prudent mother had cleaned the living room wall, and there was not a trace of mochi left on it. Could it be that it dropped in the gap between the wall and the carpet? I frantically searched by running my palm across the carpet, but nothing turned up. I tried moving around the sofa and desks, pulling up the carpet and flapping it around. But I couldn't find the needle. Did my mum clean up everything without noticing it? It was just 2 days ago. I don't know what day they collected the burnable trash, but it still may be in the trash bin in the kitchen. I rushed to the kitchen, opened up the lid of the pail and poured out the contents. But even at a glance, I could tell that it would be incredibly difficult to find the needle in this pile of trash. I was looking for a needle in a trash stack. I know. I'll try running my hand through it. It was a bit gross, but I was looking for a needle. If I felt a small prick, I'd be able to find it. It was a pretty tactless method, but it was the quickest. I held my breath and started striking the trash pile with my hand. Filth threw about. There was nothing more disgusting than this, but it was not the time to be concerned about such details. I continued for a while, but nothing turned up. I wanted to search more thoroughly, but I was still on the phone. I shouldn't keep Oishi-san waiting for too long. Later, when Mom got back, I'd have to ask her if there was a needle. I hastily began scribbling on the notepad affixed to the refrigerator with a magnet. Was there a needle? I scrawled the words with a red pen. Then I dashed back upstairs, where I kept Oishi-san waiting for far too long. Hello? How'd it go? I couldn't find it. I was really overwhelmed when it happened, and... I see. It'd be great if you could find it. Keep it safe. That's right. The needle wasn't the only incident. I had to tell him about this morning with the hit and run. Also, Oishi-san, that isn't all. Actually, this morning, a van was definitely aiming for me. I could say that without question due to the circumstances at the time. Did you see the license plate? I can search for it from here. Damn it! At the time I just flipped out and yelling at him, but I didn't look at the plate. What failures on my part with the needle and the number plate. I was so focused on just protecting myself that I let some of the most important details slip out of my grasp. I punched my pillow, annoyed at how worthless I was. I'm sorry. I don't know much more than other than that it was a white van. Nothing to fret about, Maibara-san. Anyone would be shaken up after being hit. I guess all of this really isn't a coincidence, is it? Oishi-san started to hem and haw over the other end. I could imagine him folding his arms. Also, Reina is acting strange. How so? What Reina said on the way home today, asking why I was so much like Satoshi-kun. Now I could say it with confidence. But Reina knew what happened to Satoshi. She knew that there was more to it than him simply just disappearing. Reina knows. She knows something regarding what happened to Satoshi, the kid who was demoned away last year. What would that be exactly? Reina said I was the same as Satoshi. She said something to the effect that the way things are going, I'll end up with the same fate as Satoshi. Fate, you say? Exactly what kind of fate did she say were before you? Transferring out, she said. Transferring out? Reina said that Satoshi transferred out. So given how things are going with me, I'll transfer out too. Oishi-san let out a stern sigh and then grumbled loudly. Maibara-san, that was probably some sort of threat. Or maybe some type of warning. I thought so too. At that point, I started to think. Would it be prudent to sum up everything that had happened up until now as the machinations of some human perpetrator? Other than the theory of it being Reina and the others, I was left with Oishiro-sama's curse actually existing as the only explanation. Of course, I couldn't tell that to Oishi-san. Except, Reina's strange behavior could be proof of either scenarios. Whether it was Oishiro-sama's curse being real or everything being part of a conspiracy committed by all the villagers, Reina was involved. Reina had to know something. Reina was suspicious. What exactly was Reina? I couldn't help but think she was somehow involved with the prior string of mysterious deaths. I seem to recall that Oishi-san had admitted that he had dug into Reina's past a little. He was probably just downplaying it when he said a little. Meaning he'd actually dug pretty deep, most likely. I wanted to hear about Reina. I wanted to know what happened to her at her previous school, among other things that were still unknown to me. If Reina was someone I should suspect. No, not that. I wanted to know the truth. Tonight I was alone in this huge house. Even though I said I couldn't count on them, I had lost the security I had just by having my parents around. It wasn't like this house was some sort of fortress or castle. If a malicious person decided to use brute force, they'd easily gain entry. There were no other residents close to the Maibara residence. No one would be able to hear anything, no matter how loud it was. I never felt as much resentment towards my father's artistic temperament and the fact that they had this house built in such a remote location as they did right now. Fuck, that's not good. I wondered if I'd still be here by tomorrow morning. So I had to ask. Right now. Because I had no idea when the next chance would come. Oishi-san. I have something I want to ask about. Please don't keep anything from me. Sure, ask away. Even though he was so far from the other end of the line, this was the most reliable he'd ever felt. I wanted to ask. About Reina. About what had happened at her previous school. Actually, regarding Reina's... I noticed a sound that had been going on for a while now. Since I was so focused on the call, I hadn't paid attention to it at first, but I finally realized that it was the doorbell. The time was 7 o'clock. It was past the time the postman would be making a delivery, and past any sensible time for a neighbor to be visiting. I considered just acting like nobody was home, but that wouldn't be any good. That would ruin all the work I put into making it look like my parents were home. I needed to answer the door. Hello? Maibara-san? Sorry, somebody seems to be at the door. I'm going to see who it is. Guest. I see. My apologies. Should we end the phone call now? That would be a problem. No, I'll be back in a second. Do you mind if I just leave the phone on? It's fine, I don't mind. I dropped the handset on my bed and dashed toward the door. I need to make a good excuse to get them to leave. I had a hunch it was the lady who called right before Oishi-san did. In which case it would be one of the neighbors who was friends with my mom. If I'll just say that mom wasn't feeling well and went to bed early, that would be the easiest option. It'd be hard for her to ask me to wake my mom if she's not feeling well. The bell continued to ring at regular intervals. If someone didn't answer after you rang the bell so much, normally you'd give up and go home by now, wouldn't you? Without removing the chain, I opened the door slightly and peered out at the visitor. You've got a peephole, dude! Use that! A chill ran down my spine. I knew it. Somewhere deep inside, I had prepared for this moment. I tried to escape by imagining it was the easiest person to deal with, one of my mom's friends. Good evening. Reina. There shouldn't be any reason for Reina to come over at this hour. The timing also made me feel uneasy. Because it was just as I was about to ask Oishi-san about Reina. I wish I could have chalked this up to more than mere coincidence. But those unsettling words from Mion several days ago echoed back at me.
There's nothing this old man doesn't know.
Are you alone, Reina? Yeah. It seems that Mion wasn't with her. But that didn't change the situation at all. Why did you come here?
Hey,
Keiichi-kun.
I'd like you to open the door so we can talk. Can I come inside? I wonder.
It was true that speaking through a chained door wasn't the right way to talk to a classmate. But at my house, the chain has to be on at night. Don't worry about it.
Then it can't be helped, I guess.
Reina looked at the ground sadly. But she kept smiling at least, and her effort to keep that smile was quite pitiful. Even though she was tugging at my heartstrings, I didn't lower my guard. As long as I stayed like this, even if it made my heart ache, my life wasn't in danger. What I really feared, more than the possibility that hoodlums would assault me if I removed the chain, was trusting Reina enough to remove the chain and having my friendship betrayed. As long as the chain wasn't unlatched, even if it made my heart ache, I wouldn't have to deal with being betrayed by Reina. Since it didn't seem like I'd removed the chain from her silent urging, she accepted to Since it didn't seem like I'd removed the chain from her slight urging, she appeared to give up on trying to get into the entryway.
Have
you eaten yet, Keiichi-kun?
No, I haven't eaten. Since my mom wasn't there, dinner wouldn't be ready no matter how long I waited. I laid down when I got home and was woken up by the phone and didn't have a chance to eat. Didn't have a chance to eat since I used up all that time talking. I was going to have cup noodles in any case. I could just eat one whenever I wanted to. No, not yet. What about it?
That's good. Look here. I brought a bunch of dishes.
Reina held out a stack of boxes wrapped in cloth.
If I could use your kitchen, I could heat up the miso soup and other stuff.
It's fine. You don't need to do that.
But there's a lot of tofu and vegetables in it. Does Kichiki not like that type of stuff, I wonder? I wonder?
There's no way I wouldn't like that. I love miso soup with lots of ingredients. White radish, carrots, burdock root and potatoes. Dense and fibrous root vegetables. Yeah, that miso soup looks incredible.
I also brought rice, so if you have microwave it, you'd be ready to eat in no time.
Without a doubt, rice needs miso soup. Stuffing rice down your gullet, slipping miso soup in between ravenous bites. Oh yes, how wonderful it is to be born Japanese. Don't fucking rub it in, okay?
Also, I need some more pickles. I need sansai pickles this time.
Before I moved to Hinamizu, I scoffed at the mountain vegetables called sansai. But I was captivated by the charm the first time I tried them. Such a deep and yet light flavor. Those so-called supermarket vegetables tasted rough and overpowering in comparison. If you had to describe them, they were the vegetables for the uninitiated. To become an expert such as myself, you first had to partake in sansai. It was common knowledge around here that the Ryugyu family's traditional pickles were wonderfully delicious. No matter what kind of pickles they were. They go so well with that fluffy white rice.
And also...
But wait, there's more! Why did you have to make it sound like an ad, Keiichi? So delicious. It just seems so delicious. Farewell to my unhealthy self who said he'd do with cup noodles. Reina appeared to be in good spirits, and she was offering such a delicious-sounding dinner. The stress evaporated from my gut, and hunger reared its voracious head. At the same time, my wariness of Reva suddenly dwindled. Reina did say she was alone. It shouldn't be a problem letting her inside. Though the possibility it was still laced with poison still hadn't been ruled out. At that moment, a cold chill ran down my spine once again. I couldn't understand why such a sensation had occurred just then. But the voice inside me was sounding the alarm. This happy Reina speaking of this charming dinner was dependent on one premise. And that premise was tonight, dinner hadn't been made at my house. Meaning it was under the assumption that my mom, who should be making it, wasn't here. And in any normal household, 7 o'clock would be right around the middle of dinner time. If my mom were here, we'd be eating dinner around this time as well. The fact that she brought over all the makings of a meal at this time was inherently strange. Unless she knew. Reina. Did she know my parents went home? But there was also a chance that this was a bluff. I had turned on the lights and a bunch of other stuff to make it seem like my parents were here. There was a chance that Reina was unsure if my parents were home. But I had to wonder. The laundry, the garbage, the evening paper. There were plenty of signs of them being hastily tidied up. It was hard to say that Reina didn't have a chance to determine if my parents... It's hard to say that Reina didn't have a chance to determine if my parents were here or not. But there was no reason for me to confess to that right now. I should try holding on to that fact as long as I could. First of all, the chain was still latched. As long as I didn't take it off, Reina wouldn't be able to do anything to me. I'm quite grateful, but dinner will be ready pretty soon.
Huh? Is that so? Is that so?
I know you went through all the effort and everything, but... Well... Unable to think of a good way to refuse, my words trailed off weakly.
But some of this could work as side dishes, I think.
I'm sorry. We've made way more than enough already. My mom always makes quite a few side dishes. So...
You have side dishes?
With a smile that bordered on a cringe, I dodged her questions apologetically. But the feeling I tried to ignore began creeping up my back again. I spoke as if my mom was settling down dinner right now, but it didn't mesh well with what Reina was saying. Reina was talking as if she was aware of some obvious fact. And that, I was aware of it well.
So Keiichi-kun can cook. What did you make, I wonder?
No, well, it's not that I... Reina would assume out of nowhere that I can make the dishes. No. Not so much that I'd made them, but rather that my mom hadn't.
Did you really make them? The side dishes? Did you, Keiichi-kun?
It wasn't me who made them. My mom did. No, she's making them. Right now. So, you see, I'm sorry, but I really can't eat what you've brought. Reina fell silent at that moment. At that moment, I felt the light had suddenly disappeared from her eyes.
How about I just try guessing what Keiichi-kun's dinner will be?
It doesn't matter what I'm going to eat.
Let's see.
The conversation might appear natural at first glance, but Reina was firmly in control. I felt like I was being interrogated.
I wonder, is it something that can be made with just hot water?
Hey now, stop with the insults! I can't believe you belittle my mom's extravagant dinner like that. Tickets sold out, full capacity already. It's that amazing. I tried my best to put on a strong front, but I couldn't grip my teeth quite right. So instead, I looked like someone who was borderline hysterical. But Reina showed no reaction whatsoever, even to that silliness.
Keiichi-kun. Did your mother really leave you dinner?
No, you see, she didn't leave me dinner. She's making it right now. It's almost time for dinner. Reina had taken that assertion of mine that my mother was home and making dinner right now and was completely ignoring it. I could tell that the more I panicked, the colder Reina became.
Hey, Keiichi-kun.
At that moment, an uncomfortable chill crept through the gap in the doorway.
Is your mom home, I wonder?
I couldn't keep up this charade anymore. Reina, she knew full well that my parents weren't home. But I'd come too far to admit that now. Anyway, my parents were here and we'd be having dinner soon. That was the situation I had concocted. So I answered. I told her that she was here. She's here, of course. I could feel the humidity drying out from the surrounding air. Reina's eyes were becoming even more frigid, piercing me with their gelid glare. I don't know why I was expecting the change in expression and it still fucking terrified me.
Why?
Huh? What do you mean? I tried acting casual, but the facade, it was torn off me the instant I looked into Reina's eyes. That look, it informed me of Reina's response faster than she could open her mouth. I hadn't noticed she was smiling? I don't like it!
Why have you been lying to me, I wonder?
I'm not lying!
That's a lie, isn't it?
It's not a lie! Lies! Reina's outburst sent a jolt surging through my body. I'm not gonna lie. The longer I stare at this, the worse it gets. I don't know what it is. It's probably the smile. Also the art. It's like... it's just... Yeah, it's really well done, okay? I'll settle at that. It does its job well. Reina's outburst sent a jolt surging through my body. Reina and I were still separated by what felt like inches that's slightly ajar, but still a chained door could afford. But despite that, I was still being cornered. My house, which I considered a safe haven until now, had become more like a dark alleyway where no one could save me. It gets worse the longer I look at it! I hate it!
ケイチ君のお夕飯当てるよ。
Shall I guess your dinner, Keiichi-kun?
ね
Let's see.
I knew now that Reina had already known that my parents would not be here tonight. But it was still so strange that it had come to this. Even if she somehow knew that my parents weren't home, there was no way she would be able to guess what I was eating tonight. But Reina said she'd guess. How could she guess it? How could she know it was...
カップラーメン当たりでしょ
Cup noodles. That's right, isn't it?
that I was going to... Wait. The cooking repertoire of a man who can't do housework is probably nothing but cup noodles after all. Looking at this statistically, it was probably the most probable answer. That didn't mean she was guessing.
ラーメンだけじゃきっとお腹すく
I
と思
don't
う
think you'll be
な
full with just noodles.
ご飯とかも一緒の方
I
が
think having rice and
きっと
stuff
腹
will
持ち
definitely
いいと
hit
思
the
うよ
spot.
Calm down, Keiichi Maibara. I feel like this is slowly but rapidly becoming my catchphrase. This was just a coincidence. Reina was just reading curtain tells of mine. Hope if I could fucking read. Reina was just reading certain tells of mine. So the fact that she was inferring what I was thinking alarmed me. But it was as if she was actually reading my mind. Wasn't even. If it was being read, then she was a demon. No, not a demon. Things like that. They couldn't possibly exist.
好きなの
Do you like them?
ラーメンがかよ。
Do you mean noodles?
うんうん
No.
豚骨生姜味
Come again, Reina? I don't know what that word is. It's been censored for me. I hate it. Yeah, I don't know what that word is, and that fact terrifies me. Reina indicated that the point my answer was addressing was wrong. Her rebuttal was so short that I momentarily didn't understand the words Reina had spoken.
ごめん、レナ。
Sorry, Reina.
今、なんて
What did you say just now?
何が
About what?
今さ、何が好きって
Just now, you asked me if there was
聞い
something I liked, didn't you? It wasn't long before I regretted how carelessly I pushed forward with that question. It was such a simple answer. That was why I wasn't able to comprehend it.
豚骨生姜味
She knows the flavor I like. Oh dear.
Pork bone and ginger flavor.
I wonder how I appeared in the moments my mind went completely blank until the moment I was able to recover. As my field of view began to distort, slowly swirling in a counterclockwise direction, I lost all sense of balance.
なんでそこまでわかるんだよ
Why do you know that? I didn't even deny it. I was the type of frenzied state I was in. How could Reina even know this? Not even caring, as I mashed my head against the door, I fixed my gaze on Reina. But she didn't even flinch when she saw me do that.
確かに買った。
I certainly did buy them.
まとめて買った。
I bought a bunch at
俺
once.
が箱買いした。
I bought a whole case!
それがどうして
How could you know that?
なんでかな
Why, I wonder?
不思議だね
Quite strange, isn't it?
だね
Isn't it?
How could you dodge the question at a time like this? The chain and the door suddenly were no longer protecting
どう
me.
してわかる
How do you know?
なぜ知ってる
Why do you know?
答えろ
Answer me!
買ったのはセブンスマート
You bought them at the 7th Mart,
だよね
didn't you?
A shiver ran up my spine. I tried covering up with an angry facade.
だから
Like I said,
わかるんだよ
why do you know that?
ケイチ君の後ろず
I
っ
was
とくっ
behind
つい
you,
てたから
following you the whole time.
何を言ってんだよ
What are you saying? I couldn't understand why she said she'd been following me all this
だ
time.
から
That's because
レナが
Reina was
圭一くんの
right
後ろに
behind Keiichi-kun's back
ずっとくっついて
the
たの。
whole time.
Like, that night? The night I was orbed in my phone call with Oishi-san? I didn't even sense her being there, standing behind the door. Behind me. Just standing there, just like that?
圭一くんがいろんなラーメン選んでるとこ、
Whenever Keiichi was picking up the
後ろからずっと見
noodles,
てた
I was watching the entire time.
いろんな種類を選ん
You
で
picked
たん
out
だ
so
よ
many
ね。
different flavors, didn't you?
それでお母さんに
Then
怒ら
your
れ
mom
た
got angry.
高いラーメンばっかり
If
選
you're
ぶか
going to
ら
pick the expensive ones, then you should just pick one type, she said.
それで圭一くん
And
大
Keiichi-kun
好き
picked
な
out
大
that
きい
big
カッ
box
プ
of
の
pork bone and
豚骨
ginger
生姜
flavor that
味
you
を
loved
選
so
んだんだよね。
much, didn't he?
レナも好きだよ
I like it too.
豚骨ラーメン。
Pork bone noodles.
でも大きい
But
カ
I
ッ
could
プ
never
は
eat a
全部
big
食べ
bowl
きれ
to
ないけどね。
myself.
My brain was paralyzed, dulling my senses. It might have been a defense mechanism to diminish the fear that I was feeling to non-traumatizing levels. With the fear being diminished, the fog enveloping my mind was cleared away. Then I could understand what Reina was saying and started to put meaning behind her words. Even so, my fear hadn't subsided completely. It was like I was standing at the edge of a cliff, eyes closed so that I didn't have to look down. It didn't actually solve any of the basic problems. I slowly took a step backwards. And as I withdrew, Reina advanced.
だから圭一くん
So, Keiichi-kun,
ここを開けて。
can you open this?
レナと一緒にご飯
We
食
can
べ
eat
よう。
dinner together.
きっと美味しいか
I'm
ら。
sure it's going to be delicious, so... Okay?
Reina's pale and slender fingers squirmed through the crack in the door as one at a time, as if they had a mind of their own, rattling the chain. If she had unlatched the chain from the door, a feeling of terror would have just exploded within me. But Reina didn't do that. She was simply imploring me to remove the chain. I tried my hardest to light the fuse to the powder keg in my heart, trying again and again. But it doesn't light. It doesn't light!
開けて
Open up.
圭一くん。
Keiichi-kun?
帰ってくれ
Please go away.
頼むから
I beg you.
帰ってくれ
Please go away!
どうしてそんな意地悪を言うのか
How
な。
can you say something so mean, I wonder?
帰ってくれ
Please go away!
帰れよ
Go away! Well, I thought the second one was going to be where it was peaked. I don't know if I can go for the third one. The powder keg inside me finally went off. No smoldering. It just exploded. I tackled the door. The force through the door had knocked Reina momentarily off balance. I couldn't hesitate here. I grabbed onto the doorknob with both hands, planted my feet firmly, and pulled with all my might. But that slamming sound I so desired didn't happen. I could feel a tiny, disturbing bit of resistance keeping the door from closing. And the source of that was Reina's fingers. Each of those fingers wriggling, squirming around like the tendrils of a carnivorous plant through the crack in the doorway. That's Keiichi-kun. It wasn't a harsh shriek, but more of a yelp she was trying to keep back. Go away! Go away! Go away! I kept pulling on the door with all my might. She's not gonna go if her fingers are stuck in the door! I didn't even realize that if I didn't loosen my pull on the door, at least momentarily, Reina wouldn't be able to pull her fingers out. And that was why the door wasn't closing.
本当に痛いの。圭一
Really hurts, Keiichi-kun.
くん。悪ふざけが過ぎたなら
Sorry if I was
謝
messing
るよ。
around too much.
I didn't care one bit for her apology. No matter how much she apologized, it didn't change any of what she'd done up until now. It didn't change anything.
痛いの。痛いの。
I'm sorry.
audio is not liking that one. Reina couldn't leave even if she wanted to because I trapped her fingers. Reina's white fingers had become deep red and were no longer even squirming. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Go away. Go away. Go away. I think we're just stuck in a loop at this point. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Reina's apologies were occasionally twisted with pain, but like a broken record, she was intent on repeating it over and over. Go away, go away, go away. Stop it, stop it, stop it, stop it! I pulled on the door even harder. Finally, Reina's fingers were somehow able to slip out from their imprisonment in the doorway. The moment that happened, the door closed soundly, and I could hear a thud of Reina falling on her butt on the other side. I locked the door immediately. It made a loud clunk, voicing my rejection to Reina. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Keiichi-kun. I'm sorry. Open up, Keiichi-kun. Reina leaned against the door, apologizing profusely and nothing else. After confirming that I was sufficiently sealed off from her, I trudged away from the entryway. On the other side, I could still hear Reina echoing her apology. I'm sorry, but those pitiful words, they would be forever seeking my forgiveness. I didn't feel bad about this at all. But that wasn't out of any sort of malice. I felt a sort of hazy sense of relief that I was able to escape from Reina. Before, Mion had threatened me at this doorway, saying there was nothing she didn't know. And just now, at the same place, Reina told me the exact same thing. My feeble attempts to disguise the fact that my parents weren't home had served no purpose from the start. I should have just pretended to be out and not even opened the door. My meager plans hadn't helped at all. In Hinamizuwa, it was impossible to outwit them. Even though I was on the other side of the door, I wanted to get as far away from Reina as possible. 1 step, 2 steps. With each one, her sniveling apologies became even more distant. I sprinted up the stairs and dove into my room. As you would expect, I was finally no longer able to hear Reina from repeating her endless apology. Diving into my bed, I was startled by the harsh lump I felt. There was something in my bed?! It was the receiver. I finally remembered. I was in the middle of a call with Oishi-san. Looking at the clock, apparently not much time had passed since I went downstairs. Could it be that my clock had run out of batteries? I'd talked with Reina for so long. How did almost no time pass? But the hands of the clock, it was ticking forward 1 second every second, as usual. As I put the still warm receiver to my ear, time, which had felt frozen, began moving again. Hello, Oishi-san? Sorry to keep you waiting. No, not at all. I didn't wait that long. It became apparent that the amount of time I thought had passed between myself and Oishi-san were different. Over the phone, I could hear an energetic voice from a sports program or something. It drove home just how far away Oishi-san really was. Reina came just now. She come to play? I wasn't confident that I could coherently explain the situation to Oishi-san. But I didn't need to right now. Right now I needed to know about Reina. That's right. I was planning to ask Oishi-san more about Reina, but Reina's little visit had interrupted the conversation. What was true and what was false? I couldn't tell. The one thing I knew was the single grim reality that Reina was suspicious. I might be able to figure something out if I asked Oishi-san about her. Up until now, I regretted it whenever I forced myself to ask about things that I was better off not knowing. Looking at it that way, you could say I'd hit rock bottom. There was no possible way I could feel any more regret than I did now. No. Rather, I wanted to know if there was anything beyond this I would regret more. Forget about tomorrow. If it wasn't out of the realm of possibility for something to happen tonight. I wanted to know everything I could. I was absolutely not going to die like this. Not without knowing anything. I definitely won't. Regarding Reina Ryugyu-san? I did a bit of digging. Yeah, well, wasn't much. I understood that Oishi-san was talking in circles. A bit meant I dug so deep it's hard to discuss with you since you're her friend. I want to know everything from your research. I don't think you'll be very interested in what I have to say, though. Oishi-san? I spoke as calmly as possible to Oishi-san, who was continuing to avoid the issue. And then, I said it. I think Reina Ryugyu is suspicious. Even if the past incidents were for Morishiro-san's curse, Reina Ryugyu is involved. You have some sort of proof that makes you believe Reina-san's suspicious? The manner in which Oishi-san spoke became very firm. Do you have some sort of proof? That was him talking as a detective. I only have circumstantial evidence. I see. I could tell even over the phone how disappointed Oishi-san was. Pulling on the fishing line when he felt a bite, only to reel in the bait. Disappointed, but ready to cast in the line once more. That's how it seemed. Oishi-san, you can't do anything without physical proof, can you? What I meant was, you can't come and save me without proof. I stuck that barb in there. As Oishi-san loved roundabout ways of saying things, he understood me just fine. It's fine, Maibara-san. I'll protect you. That was not the least bit reassuring. Oishi-san was just using me to continue his investigation. I was just going to get killed and my corpse would be an important piece of evidence. And that's all I was to him. Whether I'm alive or dead may be of no concern to your investigation. But it's all over for me when I die. Oishi-san went silent on the other end of the line. That may have been too blunt, but I didn't care. All I needed to relay to Oishi-san was that I was currently in a very dangerous position. So please, tell me. Tell me about Reina. Satoshi transferred out. Not too far in the future, I'll probably also do what Reina called transferring out as well. You won't be able to find my corpse. I haven't been able to find Satoshi's body yet. Alright, Maibara-san, please calm down. I was already suppressing my agitation, even without Oishi-san having to tell me. It wouldn't solve anything if I continued to scream about my mistrust of the police. It would seem that I could only depend on myself and the bat Satoshi left behind to protect me. Then at least I wanted to know what happened before Reina transferred schools. You're aware this won't be very interesting, right? Oishi-san, realizing my resolve couldn't be swayed, finally caved. Right now, to me, there's nothing I'll find uninteresting. Please. There are a few things I need you to agree to. Okay. Please keep this confidential. Also, part of this may be speculation. Not all of it may be true. Are you still interested? It might not be true. I don't understand what you mean. There isn't one main investigation for the mysterious chain deaths in Hinamizawa. Each one is treated as its own individual case. Thus, Reina Ryugyu has never been linked to any of these investigations. This isn't an investigation of Reina done by the police.
個人として行った
And this is a personal inquiry, is what you're telling me. This will make things a lot quicker since you understand. All of it is from either police phone calls or meetings and interviews. So they aren't corroborated. I'm asking you to take all this with a grain of salt is what I mean. We have an agreement.
全部聞いた話だけなんですか
All of it is just from what you heard? Yeah, my apologies. It's all my personal investigation, you see.
あれ
That thing.
以前レナの
Before, you said you saw Reina's chart, didn't you?
確かに
I'm sure I heard you say that. Oishi-san paused for a moment on the other end of the line. I told you that too. Please pretend you didn't hear anything about that. I didn't care about Oishi-san having certain obligations and responsibilities. I also didn't care if there was no proof. Even if there were just rumors, there's no smoke without fire after all.
話してください大石さん
Please tell me, Oishi-san. Understood. Oishi-san finally opened those tight lips of his. It seemed that Reina lived in Hinamizuwa a long time ago. She had moved to Ibaraki Prefecture just before starting elementary school. Then, following that, right after transferring, the unfortunate incident with the breaking of the school windows happened. Then Reina confided to the doctor. It was Oishiro-sama. This was everything I knew. There isn't much difference between what I know and what you know, Maibara-san.
ではどこを詳
Then
しく
what
調べ
part
たん
did
で
you
すか
investigate further? I didn't need to ask. It was the incident right before she transferred back to Hinamizuwa.
レナが起こした事件とそ
The
の後の
incident
医者での
Reina
告
was
白
responsible
で
for,
すね
what she divulged to the doctor afterwards, correct? Yeah.
大石さんはその内容を知っているからこそ
After you learned about
Reina
that, you
たちを疑っているん
started
ですね
suspecting Reina and the others, didn't you? Yes, I did suspect them.
やはりレナたちが犯人
So they're the ones after all? No, that's not what I meant by suspect them. Huh? Oishi-san was the type of person to say things with confidence, but these particular words were less than reassuring.
じゃあ何を
Then,
疑ってるん
who
ですか
did you suspect? And it was Oyashiro-sama. Huh? That Oyashiro-sama's curse really exists. Yeah, right, well... Oishi-san's laugh was quite dry. Not certainly the kind you would want to make you join in. Oishi-san resumed the conversation. About the dubious circumstances behind Satoshi's disappearance. The course of events leading him to delve into Reina's past. Just then, there was thunder in the distance, and heavy rain started pouring down. It came without warning, the downpour fiercely beating the ground. I had left the window in my room open a crack to let the heat out. The violent wind danced into my room, making the curtains flap wildly. What is it?
あいえ
Nothing. It suddenly started raining heavily.
すみません
Sorry, please continue.
どうぞ続けてください
I got up while still on the phone and grasped the window. I said at the beginning it was an incident, but because neither the school nor the victims filed charges, the police were never involved. So you see, those involved were very reluctant to talk. Regardless of there being a victim who had one eye beaten so badly it had permanent damage. It could have been the school or possibly some individual made arrangements to keep this from going public. Also, the psychologist was very strict about their professional ethics. Hello? Maibara-san? Can you hear me? There was the figure of a person standing by the light near the mailbox this whole time. Even in this torrential rain, they didn't have an umbrella. They were unquestionably drenched from head to toe. In the shower, which was more resembled a waterfall, droplets of water dripped down from her hair. Just standing there, both arms dangling at her side. In one hand was a stack of boxes wrapped in cloth. Her eyes focused on my room. Focused on me as I was about to close the window. Her mouth was methodically repeating a chewing motion. It was as if she had something hard to chew in her mouth, with her cheeks puffed out. What could she be eating over there? How could it be at this time I was more enthralled by Reina instead of the shocking developments being brought to light by Oishi-san? If it hadn't started raining, I wouldn't have gone to the window. Can I just point out, this, the bloody fingers, is an amazing detail. It's like, oh yeah, I did trap her fingers in the door for what felt like half an hour. But yeah, this is a picture and a half, isn't it? Oh god, I'm like spoilt for choice on thumbnails. Then I wouldn't have noticed Reina. Nor would I have noticed that. Reina's mouth was moving in the same pattern. She wasn't eating something, she was repeating something. What was it? Was she repeating to me? What was she saying? And why was I right up against the window fixated on her? Hello? Maibara-san? Can you hear me? Hello? I'm sorry. Huh? Maibara-san? I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Hello? Maibara-san? What's the matter? Even in this torrential downpour, Reina was still apologizing. The other self inside me drew the curtain hastily with my right hand, blocking my view out the outside. Even doing that, Reina's relentless apology still reached my ears. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. If I forgive you for this, will you forgive me for that? Please stop. Please stop. Please stop. Please stop! I'm sorry. 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 Damn it! Why should I have to forgive her? I'm the one who wants to be forgiven. What part of me can't you forgive? I won't be killed. If you won't forgive me, then I won't forgive you either. I won't forgive. I won't forgive. I won't forgive. Won't forgive. Won't forgive. Won't forgive. Won't forgive. Won't forgive. Maibara-san. Can you hear me? Then please respond. Hello? You know, I'll give this game credit. It still somehow makes me feel bad for Reina. Even though it's like a rain of apologies. Aw, and it's Reina stood in the rain looking sad. Don't do this to me, game. I know she wants to possibly murder me, but you still make me feel bad. Oh, I love it. I love it so fucking much. I don't know why. Anyway, I think this is a long episode that I've already split into two and you've already got the first part of. So I think this is still like an hour and 20 minutes. So, yeah. Anyway, thank you all for watching this episode of Higurashi. If you liked the video in any capacity, please feel free to give the video a like down below. Leave a comment on whatever you feel like at this point. And if you want to keep up to date with whenever I post other videos, be they of this or something else I have in the works. And by having the works, I mean I just need to actually sit down and record the damn thing. Yeah, if you want to keep up to date with whenever I post anything, feel free to subscribe to the channel. In theory, YouTube will send you alerts to when I post videos, but I think you have to press the bell icon as well. So really all pressing the subscribe button does is you make me feel good about myself. So thanks for that. Oh god. Anyway, thank you all for watching. I've been Nix, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.